This is episode number 442 of the Health and Fitness Podcast by InnerFight, brought to you in association with Smith Street Paleo. Mate, I feel lonely. We don't have a guest this week. You and I are going to talk words of wisdom.
Man, it's been a while since we've been doing that.
I know. It's actually been... we want your feedback. It feels like it's been way too long, hey?
Yeah.
Just here to have a chat. We've got a load of different questions. We want to give you some updates as to what's going on. We've had some absolutely awesome guests over the last few weeks. And I think that's what's kept the show sort of pumping a little bit. Obviously, I did that big trip to the UK, got a load of good guests there.
Yeah.
But I know one of your favorites and one of my personal favorites was show 436, The Power of Persistence with Brian Keane.
That was a great one.
That was, loved it.
Not just listen to that show, but also hop over to his social and check out his podcast. He definitely has some good shows and good guests on.
Yeah, and loads of really his book, The Fitness Mindset, loads of really easy, go-to, life-applicable tips, tricks, hacks, as he calls them, techniques that you can use. And mate, another one that I want to highlight whilst we're here, if you guys have just joined us on the show, or if you have missed a few shows, you need to hop back to show number 432, Workouts and Work-Ins with Adam Cox. I had an insane amount of positive feedback on that one.
Yep.
As we do, we get a lot of good feedback on a lot of the shows, but so many people came up to me about Adam. They're like, the first 5 minutes, I didn't know which way the show was going to go, and then I just absolutely loved listening to him. So he's based in London, and big shout out to another supporter of the show, Tom Conway-Gordon, who actually hooked up that show. Actually got some good ones coming up as well in show number 400, and I think it's 44. We're speaking with Sophie Holmes, and actually recorded that show already. Recorded that a few weeks ago with Sophie, and she's got a really interesting story as well. So please, she's just been to the top of Mont Blanc. I won't spoil the whole show, but she has a medical condition that she shouldn't be doing stuff like that, and she is doing it.
Savage.
And really to keep your appetite wet. And I also recorded this one recently, and man, I've done these two on my own whilst you're swanning around. I don't know.
Traveling,
Dr.
man.
Ramsey Ross is coming in the show, 446. That's in 2 weeks'
That
time.
I'm excited to listen to. That's going to be a big
cool,
one.
Mate. Yeah, he did his thesis, his doctorate on EPO. That was his sort of case study.
Yeah.
So it's super cool. I'm not sure if we could put the title as EPO, but definitely he speaks all about sort of physiology, sports and exercise science, biomechanics, and nutrition. And as I said, that I haven't put it in the title.
He works with top athletes.
Super top. So there's a lot of cool stuff. And guys, final plug, we are still pushing away at that Fitness in Under 3 Minutes. That's a 3-minute show you just need to tune into every week. Get it, 3 minutes, get auto updates on your phone, and we're trying to share what we can.
And we have other things coming on the podcast.
Yes. Hit it.
As many of you knew, Marcus hired a new coach, Tom Walker.
You're the CEO. You hired it.
And he's a great guy and a very, very talented coach. And he's here to take care of the endurance department together with Neil Flanners. And he's going to be coming on once a month. It's the plan to talk more specifically about endurance, not only just InnerFight endurance, but endurance as a topic, energy systems, running, swimming, biking. This is both relatable for CrossFitters as well as endurance athletes.
Yeah, I think we should maybe spend a little more time talking about that, mate. I think when people hear the word endurance, they're like, oh, God, I can't do an Ironman. I'm not ready to run a marathon. That's not really what we're talking about, right? No. It's something that's... Endurance is our... It's essentially, I would in this situation define endurance as just our capacity to do work over time.
Yeah.
You know, and
CrossFit is an endurance sport.
CrossFit is an endurance sport. Life is an endurance sport. You know, I think sometimes we see endurance as just doing long stuff. And it's actually quite funny because I have a few of the guys from the class often come down to the track. And they're like, oh, I'm so nervous to go to the track. I can't run. All these endurance, the InnerFight endurance team is going to be like such good at running. And then they get down there and they're like, actually, No, we're all just pretty similar around here.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing to know about when we speak about endurance is it's not all about sort of going super long, and you don't have to, but a 40-minute CrossFit workout that has running in it, that has box jumps in it, it's also a test of your endurance.
And we encourage you to send us some questions for Tom if you have anything specific, topic ideas, or just general questions for how to develop anything with regards to endurance. He's a super smart guy, and we're gonna tear him apart with questions.
You're not going to ask him any questions at all, are you? But I think that's one thing as well, and we had a podcast on it. You and I did a podcast using heart rate to boost your performance, podcast 422 that was, and I know a lot of people got a lot of value out of that. So I think to have Tom on with us, we'll try and do one show a month, whether it's me on him or 3-ball or just you and him, just asking him questions. We're going to try and get that on once a month, maybe even as an additional show. Let's see how many, and if there are any, as you said, if there's questions or if there's people that you want on the show, that's how we get people on the show, by what you guys say. So let's send us your ideas. winning@innerfight.com. We'd love to hear from you. Mate, I want to jump into you for a bit. Regionals, it seems like a distant memory. You've had about 5 holidays since, but it was not too long ago. You were back from regionals about 4 to 6 weeks now. Talk us a little bit about your regionals experience, 2018 Meridian Regional in Madrid. How was it, mate?
It was a crazy experience. It has been a long journey to get there, so I was just really focused on, enjoying every moment, every second of the whole trip. I had everything really detailedly planned out, and I kind of learned a lot in this 3 days I was there for the competition, such as that judging can be extremely hard in certain workouts, that you might get no rep for things that you think you did correctly. You won't have time to get an explanation why, and you might keep getting no rep.
What did you get no rep on, mate?
I got a lot of no reps in the handstand walk ring muscle up workout. I got no rep 4 times on my first set of ring muscle ups. I got no rep twice on my handstand walk after passing the line. Like literally passing the line, not even like... But I never got frustrated at any stage because I knew that it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. You just have to get on with it. But one thing I wasn't prepared for was that I had a plan A and I did not have a plan B. I didn't... you go into a workout, there's 9 ring muscle ups. You're planning to do 6-3, and you get 4 no reps.
Right.
And all of a sudden, your first set, you did 11. And you're extremely fatigued now.
Yeah.
And
why did you get no reps? What was the...
lockout in the top.
No way.
But, it's so individual from judge to judge. Like some really want you to stay up there for a few seconds. Some you can kind of jam out of it. It's hard. It's not professional judging. They're not paid, so I don't want to dish out some of the volunteers. They're just there to help out. So
have you rewatched the videos? I
have rewatched. I could see on the handstand walk because I have several of my friends on the side that kind of filmed the handstand walk where I got no rep.
Yeah.
But that didn't knock me out. I didn't think I was gonna make it to the games this year, and I was there to have a good time. I'd been injured for 14 months with my arm, and I was honestly just happy that I could compete and have a good time. I learned a lot, from also what happens backstage, how long time from your warm-up to you actually get to work out, which was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Like, you warm up, you get super pumped, and you're warm and everything, and then you get called in, and you basically just sit down for 20 minutes before the workout starts.
Is that a flaw a little bit with CrossFit, mate? Is there a lot? I saw different comments, and I try and not sort of use too much time on social media looking at it, but I did see a lot of comments this year about that.
I don't know. I understand why they have to call us in, because it is a lot of people to manage every single heat to make sure there's no mistakes. And, they just got to have you ready so that everything can run smooth, because you're going to have to enter at the right time. You're going to have to be in your right lane. They will have to give you a thing around your ankle for the time chip, etc., etc. So I don't really think it's a flaw, and I think it's fair play because everyone has to be there at the same time.
Does it affect the athletic performance?
It does, but since it's the same for everyone, it's a fair...
What could...
It's like for weightlifting.
Yeah.
Like, you would go to a weightlifting competition. I remember I've done a few. It was a shocker.
Really?
you go in, you do your first lift, and then based on how many there are in between you, like weight-wise, and your next lift, you might sit down for 15 minutes, not touching a barbell. Wow. And then you have to go and hit, 95, 100% of your max. Completely cold. So I think it's just sort of the name of the game. I think in most elite sports.
Yeah. I just wonder, folks, what we're talking about here is Andre got to warm up, and then he's in like what's called almost a staging area for about 20 minutes. So he goes out essentially cold into a workout. But if we want, like, if we look at any sport, mate, like we could argue about weightlifting, what to do. We want people in sport, and the governing bodies of sport want the best performance. Yeah. They want the wow performance. If it's a lift, they want the biggest lift. So surely they've got to look at a way to, like you said, they need to tag you. Well, couldn't they do that before the warm up?
No, it's like the time chips. We're already tagged and everything. Like,
but why isn't the timing chip on before?
Because they only have a certain amount.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe they could pump in more money to that. I definitely, for me this year was also a lot about observing the top athletes and see what kind of trends and what kind of things they're doing in order, to peak. And for example, that warm-up area, for the staging area, there was a very big difference between the top and maybe some of the others, like, the top guys will constantly make sure they're, moving around, doing certain things, explosive things, have like different protocols to get ready for the specific events and not get cold.
Right.
And many others, especially as the events go on, and you might be in the bottom of the leaderboard, you're already like, screw this warm-up, or screw this cool-down. Yeah. And I really observed how the best are also the best at warming up and are also the best at cooling down and fueling themselves. And as the events go on, the less good part of the athletes there, I mean, I wasn't the top at all, but I knew my coach constantly reminded me, like, remember, as the days goes on, everyone will get more and more fatigued. Yeah. Everyone will start warming up less, cooling down less, taking their nutrition less serious because they're getting lazy and they're starting to give up. Just like in the Open, it's 5 weeks. You're going to reach week 4 and 5, and everyone is getting tired. So this is where you need to excel.
Right.
So I really, it was an interesting thing to see how it all works backstage, and I definitely learned quite a few things for next year.
Yeah, right.
Such as...
what would you do differently, mate?
Next year, I'm going to make sure to have my coach with me there.
Yeah.
It's really nice to have somebody who can... make sure with the heat timings and with your warm up, like
just to manage things.
Yeah, like it's hard with the warm up time. Like you have to you're called in at this time. Okay, how long do you warm up before? You have to have a very specific protocol, and it kind of helps when you have somebody guide that. So all you need to focus on is just performing rather than like timing and like, oh, where's my water? I forgot, I need a banana now, or it's a lot of things. And another thing I would do is stay more by myself in between the events.
Right.
I was kind of surrounded by a lot of people constantly, and it just didn't really help me. Like I needed more downtime in between, rather than constantly being around a lot of noise and just being in a more calm state.
Would you let's take a scenario. You get through the Open in great shape next year. You're going to qualify for regionals. Would you start testing if you got the regional workouts get released, maybe, say, for argument's sake, 3 to 4 weeks before? Would you start following the same time schedule? And by that I mean event 1 is what it was this year. Would you then next year, will you warm up, sit for 20 minutes, or not be super active for 20 minutes, then do the workout?
Yeah.
Is that a learning?
I would do 2 mock weekends. I did try to do 1, but since I was injured, I could barely do any of the events.
Right.
So,
how many people do you think this year actually did that, put that staging part in, that 20 minutes of just like hanging around, only able to do like basic movement stuff into their training? Do you think anyone did?
I think all the top guys did.
Really?
Yeah. It's very normal to have like a mock weekend where you like really drill in timing. I mean, as much as you know. Like, but you can pretty much set it up exactly how it is. And you could invite a bunch of guys over and do it. And that's maybe something I would do for next year, like with some of the guys around the area, like train more with them leading up to regionals. But it's just hard when I was injured. I couldn't Like,
you're a bit limited.
Most of the workouts I couldn't do, and I couldn't risk pushing myself too hard before because I wasn't sure if the elbow was going to hold up.
It's super interesting because I think it's quite alien as well, that whole, I'm going to warm up, I'm going to get super ready for this, you probably absolutely wet through, and then sit for 20 minutes, and now work out.
Yeah, and
I think that takes a serious amount of practice.
And for the audience that sits and watches, I remember that being me. When sometimes I'd been testing some workouts.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't qualified for regionals, I would do some of the workouts.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, telling my mates, man,
I can do that.
I was beating that time in training. Or like, I was going faster in training. It's like, but now I realize all the stuff that goes on and the pressure and the warm-up area, there might not be a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
You can... That's another thing. Like, I had to schedule my warm-up so specifically and train them several times. I got to the warm-up area, and there was no bike available, or there was no that available because somebody was sitting on it. Because obviously we're so many heats.
Yeah.
The girls come off, they go straight on the bikes and cool down, and you were planning to do warm-up on the bike, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of learning.
Do you think that's something that perhaps needs a little bit more flexibility, maybe in a warm up scenario, mate?
Yeah.
Like I think it's massive. I think people train a lot in their gym, and then they go into a competition, and it's different, and everyone's like, but it wasn't the same. Yeah, but it's never going to be the same.
No.
I remember when we competed in Kuwait, and I don't know what workout it was, but there was a barbell workout, and there was 2 or 3 barbells, and there's 25 teams.
Yeah.
And there was the floor wasn't even. It's quite normal, but everyone goes to the event thinking, I'm going to do things like X, Y, Z, and this is my plan, and that's it. So, massive, mate, massive experience. I want to stay on regionals for a few minutes, mate. We've seen in the last couple of weeks, and I think everyone wants to know about this. I love to speak about it. We're going to try and speak in more depth about this in another show coming up. We just need to do a little bit more research. What we've seen emerge in the last week is that a number of the athletes that had qualified for the CrossFit Games, and some that also hadn't, some that were at regionals, have been named and shamed as users of performance-enhancing drugs. It's some of the top guys, some of the people that actually gained a place for the CrossFit Games have had that place taken away from them, and whoever was next in line at that region has gone. Mate, what are your thoughts on the number of people and the number of drugs we have seen at CrossFit Regionals this year? It's bigger than ever.
I am honestly shocked. Some people call me naive before. I did not think that many... remember, there's 14 athletes taken already, and there's more that's in appeal process right now. They only test the top 4 or 5, or depending on how many qualify for the games.
Right.
So the qualifying athletes for the games are all tested.
Were you tested at regionals?
No.
Right.
And then they handpick a few athletes that they test.
Right.
That can be based on just random handpicking, but it can also be based on other athletes or spectators or gyms can call, if you were at regionals, I could say, man, I've heard that Marcus Smith guy, he's on drugs. And then they would test you.
Is that because I'm so jacked?
So you're so skinny, how can you make it? No, but so the fact that so many athletes has been taken is crazy because they only test so few. I remember I had a discussion with my coach about this and I asked him, why don't they just test everyone? I don't get it. And he explained to me, it's extremely expensive.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he said something between $2,000 to $5,000 per test.
Yeah.
But another thing I'm surprised about is how can it cost without technology nowadays?
Yeah.
Really, $2,000 to $5,000 for one test?
Mate, I guess the way to test people that to do it properly, you have to have an independent body that comes in.
Yeah.
So you have to fly those people over. You have to. Yeah. It's a big process, and to test the urine, it's a big lab process, and it just depends how much you want to invest in it to keep your sport clean.
Yeah.
But it also comes back to I did a lot on my Instagram live recently about drugs, and it's my honest thought that sports don't want to invest a lot, because it is a lot of money, and it's like cycling. Like, a lot of people know that the drugs is everywhere. The sport is littered with drugs, but if you don't have those guys performing, if you expose them all, there is no sport, because sport depends on sponsors, it depends on public. So, CrossFit want to do, in my opinion, every sport governing body want to do literally the minimum effective dose to try and scare people away. And I think they've done. I mean, like you said, there's about, I was trying to find the article there, but
it's 14 official,
have been named,
and they all have a 4-year ban. I think there's one that only has a 2-year ban because it's not actually a sports enhancing drug, just probably like something else.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But usually it's 4-year ban, so it's pretty much career ending, to be honest.
If you got,
but now now the big question, and now the very interesting thing is that, is it career ending, or are there other companies and competitions such as Dubai Fitness Championship, such as Wadapalooza, such as other big competitions that are growing with pretty good prize money?
Yeah, right.
Are they willing to take these athletes on into their competition?
Will you?
No.
You wouldn't?
No.
No, good.
I think Dubai, they didn't invite Ricky for last year. He finished like 5th or 6th, I think, 2 years ago.
Right.
Then last year he got taken for drugs, and this year he wasn't, or the past year he wasn't invited for the competition.
I think most competition organizers, mate, probably, unless they just want to cause a lot of fuss, I think most event organizers will not.
Because it's not fair. The athletes will not go. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think some athletes will be like, man, this competition invites athletes that have been taken for drugs. Hell no.
Yeah, I don't want to go to that. Yeah, it's interesting, and what's more interesting, there are some incredibly big names involved in that. There's some people that didn't qualify for the games, which doesn't make it right, but there are people that actually qualified for the games, and one of them we were speaking about earlier, like, she's a big name.
Yeah, Emily Abbott. Yeah. She finished first in her region. It's her best year ever.
Because she's on drugs.
So she's been trying to make an appeal, or, when they get tested positive, I still think they have, there's an appeal process where they get to defend themselves, but I think ultimately they can't turn it around regardless, because if you have it in your body, it doesn't matter if somebody put it in your body or you did it yourself. It's just how it is, and I think
that tactic's been used before. My coach told me to take it. Oh, I didn't realize. Oh, I'm super sorry. Well, you're an adult. You're responsible.
And a lot of people have been are saying that they had this pre-workout and they didn't know that this stuff was in it. It was banned. And to be honest, this is a professional sport now. And like you said, we're all adults, and you are 100% responsible for anything you put into your body. And I think anybody who tries to make an excuse, it's just pathetic. I would just say that you didn't know, or you took it and that's how it is. Yeah. And there's several people who says I took it. Okay, 4-year ban.
What can you say? Yeah. You have to be a man. I think that's one of the things, mate. I think you have to sort of wear it, saying that someone else gave it. Plus, it's in the drug policy for CrossFit. Everyone that signs up to the Open, it's there. You click the box to say that you agree to the drug policy. You agree to it. Yeah. You agree to it, and it's not. There's no argument that someone else gave it to you. That's your own stupid fault. If what do they say when you're a kid? Oh, I did it because he told me, and then the teacher says, "Well, if he told you to jump off a cliff," and I always used to say yes. Yeah, but I never used to. Mate, more locally, one of the local girls in Dubai has also from a gym locally has also is on the list. She's been caught with a number of substances. What do you think that impact has on the local CrossFit community?
I can tell you the impact that I hope it has. Yeah. I hope that it pushes everyone far away from it and uses this as a statement that something you shouldn't do. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think what it can do to a lot of people is that it makes them feel like, oh man, I can never make it. I can never become that good without using illegal substances. Everybody's using it, and that's just how it is. And I think, unfortunately, that's what non-winners would do. Yeah. And people just can say, oh no, all these guys, I don't stand a chance. I don't even want to try because they're all cheating. I couldn't beat them if they were on it. The truth is, I don't think those people could beat them anyways, regardless if they're on it or not. So I just hope that it scares people and it says, don't do it. Yeah. And there are people, I believe that there are people in the top 10
Yeah.
that are completely drug-free and crushing it.
Right.
So you can too.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's it's a good way. We're obviously going to see a lot more come out about that in the coming weeks, and we might try and hit some people up and try and get them on the show.
Yeah, but I also want to say that, you know, it's very easy to stand and point fingers, and when you don't get maybe the pressure that's on these athletes. I mean, CrossFit is still a new sport, and there's not that much money, but it's increasing now, and a lot of people might have a family that also, you know, CrossFit is their way of living. Like, they're getting paid by sponsors.
But I think that's another bullshit excuse.
I know, but if you watch like The Price of Gold or any other like elite sport documentaries where people are caught for drugs or they're told, take this drug and you're gonna die early, and they're told, and they'll do it anyways, and they won't even regret when they can't walk. You know, 30 years later, they said no. The price of gold was worth it. So
it's a big topic, mate, and it's a lot about that's a great example that you used there, and you know there've been a lot of studies done on it, and people take it, and that's unfortunately that's human nature, and unfortunately that's almost the way of the world, isn't it? Like you know, if you're not taking something, then you don't have a career in this sport, and if you don't have a career in this sport, then you know, with no disrespect, you might end up working at the local grocery store stacking the shelves, which is a great job, you know, but it's not. You know, it's not what they want to do. So, yeah, very interesting, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more come out of that.
Yeah, because especially now with the CrossFit Games, I'm excited to see if there's further drug testing, because, you know, people can be cycling on and off. That's why I'm surprised so many got caught, because I know a guy from Denmark who is known as the muscle doctor, and he has PhDs in steroids and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And he did a long post about, you know, this whole drug thing, and he says, it just seems like everyone who's got caught for drugs and the stuff they're taking, it just seems like these guys, they don't know what they're actually doing.
They don't know what they're doing.
And they don't have professional help with it. They're just playing around with it themselves, and that's why they got caught. If they were smart, you know, they would have been doing small cycles throughout the whole year, getting off it right before regionals, peak for regionals, crush it, cycle on again, cycle off right before the games, do the games. Yeah. He did like a long post on how you could have.
How you could do it. I think, mate, if people do want to learn more about that, if that is interesting to you, one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to on it, and it's better than reading a whole study, thesis, or book on it, is Joe Rogan's show. Go to Joe Rogan's website. Victor Conte, he drugged Marion Jones, for example, the American sprinter, and he sits there and he talks all about it, and it's very transparent. He's been to jail for certain things. Like, he's a professional doper as well. And, you know, he talks so openly about it. And then you'll see that exactly what you said. A lot of this is just amateurism. And although you've referenced a few times that we're moving to professional sport, it's still an amateur sport done by amateurs that just want to get better and kind of are going to cheat to get there. So that's CrossFit Regionals.
Let's move on to another challenge that you did, the Corsica. Tell us about how did that work out. What was it, first of all, and then let's talk about how it went.
Yeah, mate, this was a running challenge, although a lot of it was actually more climbing than it was running.
Okay.
There's a certain number of routes in Europe called something like Grande Routière, which means big route, like Grand as in big and Routière or something like that. I might not be right in the last bit, but it's GR. So there's loads of these trails called GRs. One that Corsica has is called the GR20, which in the trail running community is one of the hardest trails in Europe. Why? Because it transverses the island. So it starts on the northwest and finishes on the southeast. So you go across the full mountain range. It was 195 kilometers. Oof. And we ended up just under 13,000 meters of elevation. If you think about that, one of the easiest things to compare that to is Mount Everest, which is just under 9,000 meters high. So we went up Mount Everest and then did about 20% more on top of it. Now, of course, it's not all going up. The highest point we reached was 2,200 meters.
That's still high, man.
It's still, it was cold up there, actually.
When you say climbing, like literally hands on the floor?
Yeah, a lot of it had to be hands on the floor, mate. In certain places there was chains that you almost like pull yourself up, and then like a lot of it is just so steep that you have to pull up with a hand and then put a leg on and then pull up. So in that, when it's like super steep climbing, it obviously depends on the amount of gradient for the amount of distance. But we could have around, you could have anywhere, we descended in 3 kilometers, 1.2 kilometer vertical down. So in 3 kilometers long, we descended 1.2 kilometers down, and we did similar climbs on the way up, about 1 to 1.2 kilometers in anywhere between 2 and 4 kilometers in length. So if you think about that, like that kind of descent, like a 3 kilometer descent with that could take about an hour and a half.
That's so crazy.
You're moving at literally
198 kilometers.
195 kilometers.
195.
Yeah.
How many days does that take?
So we planned on it taking 4.5, and it took basically 5.
Okay.
We had to alter the route slightly along the way because our progress we were probably a little bit bullish, like a little bit aggressive on the pace that we thought we'd keep. Okay. And after the second day, we're like, we have to rejig this a little bit. And we because what we were doing is we're moving from place to place where we were staying, and there just wasn't places to stay where, like in an ideal world, you'd go, okay, 195k, I'll do 50 on this day, 50 on this day, but you can't do that because your 50 might run out where you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And there's only 7 points on the whole route that a road crosses. So literally some days, like we'd leave a point and Holly and Heidi would drive like to the next location, and they'd have to drive almost 4 hours round to get to the next point, which would only take us 7 or 8 hours to run. So
wow.
Yeah, Corsica is quite an incredible place. Like it's very beautiful but it's incredibly mountainous. Like to get that much elevation, 13,000 meters, you need to do that. So yeah, it was good. We started on Monday the 9th, and we finished on Friday, the following Friday, 5 days later, at actually early Saturday morning. The last day took us 17 hours, which was quite a long. We just wanted to get it finished. It was quite a long trip, mate. But something, I mean, it was absolutely epic. We had pretty much great weather the whole way. The lowest temperature we had was just below freezing. On the peaks of one of the peaks, there's still snow up there, and we had an insane wind chill factor. So when we got to the top, we found a ridge that we had to run along, and it was quite sketchy. Like it's a vertical drop off the side, and we just ran as fast as we could to warm up. So it was pretty good fun.
What was the motivation behind doing 195k?
Mate, I mean, it was an idea that got sent to me just before I had my accident. Yeah. And then when I was in hospital, I was obviously not moving much, but I was like, gee, what can I do? I can't ride. I need to do something that's a big goal to head towards. And that was a natural next thing. And it was on a terrain I'd not really spent a whole load of time on, and it's because it's one of the most iconic routes in Europe, and the normal time for covering it is 12 to 14 days. People take 12 to 14 days to do it. The world record, I watched a documentary on Red Bull, a guy had done it in 31 hours. So then Rob and I started to sort of cut it up, and we're like, we could do it like this. Mate, the motivation behind all of these things is just to keep on doing stuff that, like, when I looked at it, I was just like, holy shit, I know I can do it, but I just know it's going to take a lot to do it. Like a lot of physical preparation and a lot of mental strength, mate. Like the last night was it was something like 8 o'clock. We pulled into this one place. We were really hungry, and they had some food, and we were sat there having food, and we had 19k left. It was just 8 o'clock. It was about 8:30, quarter to 9 when we left. It was just coming dark. We had no head torches because we never planned to run at night. So we had iPhones, and we had 19k to go. At this stage, we're averaging with mainly about 6k, 7k's an hour, because you can run a bit, and then you have to climb a bit, and then you have to descend a bit. So you can't really get more than 7k's an hour. And in the back of your mind, it's like, holy shit, I've just done like 170 whatever k, and I've now got the last 19 pitch black. Could get lost. I could just be stuck out here the whole night. Just no phone service, nothing. Like, there was nothing. In the end, mate, when it got too dark to see, we used the torch from our iPhone.
It's crazy.
But the iPhone battery is going down because we've been out the whole day.
Yeah.
You know, and we're like, so that's where it really comes to something quite special. Like, you know, is it the hardest thing I've ever done? No. I've done harder stuff, but at the same time, like, I couldn't really walk for 2 days afterwards. My feet just swelled up to the size of elephants. And
so the motivation is just to push your body to its limit.
Yeah, just to see what you can do, mate, and be in a situation that, like, just challenges you in all different ways, I guess.
And what does that give you? Like,
I think, that's a really good question. A lot of people say, why? Mate, it teaches you how to deal, like, everything that you have a problem with in life has a solution.
Yeah.
You just don't know how to find that solution. When you're in incredibly, like, if I put you in a situation and I put you with this computer and I told you to find the solution, if it was a matter of not life and death, you'd find the solution.
Yeah.
You know? And in that situation, you learn to find a solution. Mainly it's a mental game because you're climbing up for an hour and a half. You can't see the top. You get what we call a false summit. Okay, that's it. I just need to get to there, 100 meters. You get there and it's like, oh, it's over there. And you get there and, oh, it's over there. So it teaches you to be so strong in solving problems. You know the solution to your problem. Your problem is to keep moving forward and get to the top. Like, that's where it solves and then it goes down. But then you get to go down, and the down is like a 3-foot jump every 2 or 3 meters. So when you come back into, and this is what I call it, when you come back into the world, into real, it's not real out there. It's like a super fantasy world, mate. Like, that it's just a bit strange. But when you come back and someone comes with a problem, it's not a problem.
No.
It's not a problem in the slightest. But it's just you in this era now, and this might sound quite off the charts, but in this era now, we expect to be able to fix things immediately.
Yeah.
Like, in that situation, I had, like, you take that's one example, the last 3 hours with iPhones and following little paint marks on a tree. There's no real route. What happens if you go the wrong way? And then suddenly we're 3 guys, it's complete pitch black, there's no markers around. What do you do? Like, and you can't call anyone. You just have to wait until the sunlight comes. And sometimes the marker would be within 1 meter of you, but you never saw it. Like,
I think the biggest takeaway is, like, that you should do challenging stuff because it transfers over to your daily life.
Huge.
And I think nowadays there is a trend for the younger generation, my generation, that we don't like when things get hard because we have all the possibilities and opportunities in our life, and we end up often doing none of them because
this is the thing,
we can do everything and anything whenever we want, and we can get anything and everything whenever we want.
Yeah.
And then when anything is hard, we just switch to the next thing.
To the next thing.
Yeah, just give up because we know that there's constantly a plan B, but you learn from those things. Like, there's no plan B.
There's no plan B, mate.
Like,
and I wanted to say that a little bit when you were talking about regionals. Like, you said you have plan. Like, there's no plan B.
No.
We went to Corsica with plan A.
Yeah.
We never thought for 1 minute that we'd have to change the route or change the distance of the days. That wasn't to plan. I didn't move to plan B. I didn't have a plan B.
Yeah.
But we get to the end of the second day and we're like, shit, we're in trouble here. Okay, plan A is changing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, mate? Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right, is that, like, in life, if you can't figure out this equation that I've put on this laptop, you're going to go to Google. If Google can't figure it out, you're going to think a bit laterally and you're going to go and ask someone, which I think is all great ways. Or you're just going to go, screw it, someone else will do it.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. Whereas in these situations, you have to keep going. And the funniest thing, which is almost like your Achilles heel or icing on the cake, you're in pain as well. Your feet are killing you. You're under extreme physical stress.
Yeah.
And when you're under that amount of physical stress, what happens is you can't sleep very well at night, so you don't get recovery.
Yeah.
So you wake up the next morning and you're not fully mentally focused. Also, when it's dark, we started one day in the dark, and that's quite hard as well. And you're falling over things. You're literally tripping on flat floor. So you just, mate, the learning is pretty awesome. Like, you just learn so many things, and there's also a great sense of achievement. Like, you go to regionals for all of your things, but you're still happy. You've still got this massive sense of achievement.
I was about to say, it must be almost at your stage more about the achievement rather than the learning, because you've now accomplished so many challenges that I guess that you know that anything is possible.
Yeah.
And you don't need a challenge to tell you, but maybe you need a reminder. Like,
I think
we're told one thing once, but we need to constantly be reminded that.
I think and this is the thing, mate, every workout is different for you. every challenge is different for me. Like every time there's something a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know, like even on the last day, mate, like I started getting shooting pain, hip, knee, ankle. Like I've never experienced this before, all on the same leg. Like it's obviously all related. You know, how do I get around it? And you buffer it, and then, you know, it's like, okay, I still have. And this was like, I still had 12 hours to go. This was like 5 hours into it, you know? So you're right. It's not, like, I know I can do a lot of different things, but you still learn a lot of things along the way. And to finish those things it's not a bucket list. I'm not trying to collect all of these things, but it's just kind of like, it's nice to finish. And it was awesome to have Holly and Heidi there as well. You know, like they were there at the end. They waited us. We're 4 hours late at the end, so they waited in the car for us for 4 hours. You know, and that's something that's super amazing, because it's actually one of the first challenges that I've had Holly there for. So to finish, to run down, and they were there, it was like something. It was pretty special, mate.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's cool. So that was Corsica, mate. We need to crack on. We do have some questions and answers. I'm going to jump straight into this as well. We also, some things that people, we'll get these out of the way quickly. People, what you should be doing over summer. I've had a lot of this, and I want to direct you in two different ways. Firstly, listen to podcast 431. I think that's super important. And a lot of people have sent me an email or sent me a message, and they've been asking for workouts and things they can do when they're on the road. And the easiest place to go and get that is InnerFight.com/travel training. There is a bunch of workouts over there where you can just basically do them anywhere during summer. But if you want to know our take on how to stay in shape and sort of not get too fat over summer, then please go and check out podcast 431, and also hop over to the website InnerFight.com/travel training. There are 6 workouts there. AMRAP 7 minutes of burpees. That's quite an easy one. So there's a couple of different things available to you there. And Matt actually did a podcast once on it. If you hop over to iTunes, you can get that. I don't know what number it is. But, mate, there's a couple of questions that have come in that we want to hit. This guy, Sandrunner, says, "Hey, Marcus and Andre, thank you for continuing to put out great motivational content on the podcast. I've been following the podcast pretty much since they started, whilst working and living in Bahrain, UK, and now not too far away in LA. I have a question, LA, not LA. I have a question about finding the balance between running and strength training. Over the years, I've trained for 5Ks up to 50K ultras and love CrossFit strength training. The best way I've found to get better at either is to train exclusively for an event coming up, and I tend to drop the other discipline. I.e., if I'm training for a 21 trail race, less strength, and I lose muscle. Vice versa, when I train for a CrossFit event, I bulk up and my running times increase." Actually, that's me. Has Marcus got any tips on finding the balance between running weights, as he obviously keeps a lot of strength for his ultras? From your perspective, mate, from a CrossFit side, thoughts?
I would say it's extremely difficult to maintain both, and I think you've been doing the right thing of focusing on one discipline.
Yeah.
I do think that strength training does fit well in with an endurance training program.
Yeah.
But I think it would have to be minimal, so like 1 session a week and not too heavy loading, more focusing on like midline stuff or like just the compound movements.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, you do too much, first of all, it's going to fatigue you too much for all the training that is a higher priority, and second of all, you might risk putting on too much mass. And I know from you guys that it is super important to stay as thin as possible, because a half kilo extra carrying body weight of muscle on 50K can make a huge difference.
Makes a huge difference, absolutely. I think you've nailed it there, mate. I will add a couple of things, but I think to summarize on your point, like if you're training for a CrossFit competition, that should be all that matters. If you're training for an ultra, that should be all that matters. I look at it a little bit different. If I look at like ultra running or ultra cycling, what I was doing before, I was trying to get as good as I can at those things without really exposing my body to what I thought could be potentially longer term damage. I've always been around 90 kilos and I didn't want to get super, super light. So I could have gone and said, okay, I'm willing to go 6'2", like Chris Froome, the guy who's one of the top guys in the Tour de France. He's like over 6 foot and he's like less than 70 kilos. Like literally his arms are the size of this microphone stand. And I never wanted to get down to that because I think it looks a little bit... you're not super healthy. And I always want to be able to do everything. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to cycle. I did the class this morning. I want to be able to do CrossFit. So I think one thing that says is that maybe someone will say, well, I'm not committed enough to do either, and if I really went all in one, I could be a lot better. And I'm with you on that argument, but the satisfaction for me is to be able to jump into a class and tomorrow morning to run with the guys at the track. And I think that's one thing that people really need to align on a little bit their goals is if your goal is the open, if you could, and this is one thing that's, a lot of people are moving to running and ultra running. You can run ultras over summer and you could be ready for the open. Yeah. 100%. And you could go all in, and I guarantee you, like, if I stopped endurance-based challenges in September, October, when the sort of European season finished, and just really focus on my CrossFit conditioning, went open specific, I think I could do super well for the Open. Would I be able to qualify for regionals? Maybe not. If I spent that running season, that running 6 months, focusing on CrossFit, how much more percentage-wise would I be better? We could only do it if we measured it. But I don't think it would be huge difference. Like, because I've done a whole year of focusing on CrossFit, and I know what the results are, so I know where we can sort of get to. So. I think a little bit of specificity, like you can enjoy outdoor sports, you can enjoy trail running, you can enjoy cycling through the summer months, and you can also be pretty ready for the Open. I would have done the Open this year if I didn't have a freaking broken shoulder.
It sounds like, based on the way this message is written, that this person would like to improve both or maintain both. So, like Marcus said, try to find a good balance. Do more of the thing that is most important, but you can still maintain that other part. Yeah,
and I think, mate, you said it as well. Like strength for endurance. I'm still training 4 to 5 strength sessions a week, but they're really quite more basic than they would be when I'm training CrossFit. So obviously, because of my accident, I'm not, but I wouldn't be doing like a load of Olympic lifting, and I wouldn't be too worried about a load of gymnastic stuff. I'd be more worried about a load of good shoulder health, which makes those shoulders strong, so that if for example I did that and October comes and I said, right, I want to get ready for the Open, I'm doing pull-ups 2 or 3 times a week.
So maybe look at the things that would not affect your sport too much, and you can still maintain that. Like, you can do core 4 times a week,
and mate, not only that, not effect, but it's going to benefit you.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, the fact that I do a lot of lunging work and a lot of step-up work and a lot of front squat, back squat, and all of that,
it's huge.
Only makes my running and my cycling better. Yeah. Sometimes it makes... And this is where the balance has to pay off. Like, some people say, if I do strength, then, I can't run as fast. And sometimes there is that little knock-on. So you have to figure out what works well for you. For me, I can do it. I can do sort of 4 to 5 endurance sessions a week, 4 to 5 strength sessions a week. But someday, like, I'll be smart, like, it won't, like, a Monday session, because I know I have to run at the track on a Tuesday, is not super leg intensive, but I'll train heavy legs on a Sunday. So you sort of start to plan it out, and that's not something that you can tell an athlete or I can tell an athlete. That's something that the athlete has to tell the coach as well. I think that's one of the most important
it's athlete
things.
IQ. And this is the biggest mistake people make. They want to get better running and CrossFit, and they really want to excel in both. Yeah. So they decide, okay, I'm going to run 5 times a week. I'm going to do CrossFit session 5 times a week, and I'm also going to do another thing 5 times a week. Yeah. It's like, but you have to pick something that's more important a little bit, and then the other one needs to be a sort of accessory to your program. And
that I think that's one of the main things as well, mate, is that people, that opportunity cost, and we have a limited amount of time. Someone will listen to that and say, okay, you do that 5 times a week, do that 5 times a week. Like, I just don't have the time to do that. Yeah. So the average person has under 90 minutes a day to commit to it. So it's all good that you're motivated, but don't be greedy and figure out what actually works. You might say, okay, I've got 5 workouts a week. I'm going to get better at running, but I'm going to maintain and still do some pretty good core work or strength work. So I'm going to do 3 run sessions, and I'm going to do you come to the gym and you do strength for endurance athletes at the same time. I think that's something that's super important. So hopefully, and then we really almost run down the clock, so that's the only real question we're going to get to today, but hopefully, Sandrunner, that really helps you out.
And remember, we do have strength, and we have specific strength sessions for endurance athletes every Sunday and
Monday and Wednesday.
Monday and Wednesday with Tom Walker, our new endurance coach. So
go check
if you want to do CrossFit-inspired strength training for endurance, that would be a great opportunity.
That's what you need to do. And no, it's not endurance classes, so you won't be puffing a lot. It just works on strength and getting those muscles that you need for running or to be better at running, getting them firing. Mate, we've run out the clock. We're almost at an hour. We're at 50 minutes, and that's a decent show. It's been awesome, mate, to get one of these shows in. And I
agree.
Think we should actually... I think we should just talk to each other more. It's far more interesting than all these fancy guests that we get. But definitely, folks, do listen to some of those shows that I said at the start. And don't forget the next show, 444, Sophie Holmes. She's super interesting. And 446, Ramsey Ross, also super interesting guy. And as you said, mate, we'll look out for Tom on the Endurance Podcast. I think we can learn a lot from him. He's just graduated, as if you listened to his show last week, number 440, or you will know that he just graduated with a first. So he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Mate, that's been a fun show, folks. Thanks a lot for listening. Questions, mail us, winning@innerfight.com, and we will get them on the next show. Thank you very much.
Until next time.